There is absolutely no way that this country should now be facing what our energy market operator today admits. Australia, of all the places in the world, is suddenly running short of electricity. You got to ask, what kind of fools lead a country like this to this kind of nightmare? I mean, can you consider Australia has enough coal under our feet to keep burning it for fuel and heating for more than 1,000 years. We have enough natural gas to keep going for at least 50 years, much longer if we kept it all for ourselves, and longer again if we kept exploring for more. We've also got another 400 years at least of gas that we could get by fracking, like in the Beetaloo Basin. And we've got a third of the world's uranium, which we could use for electricity for many, many years if the government didn't have a mad ban on even that. So much coal, gas and uranium. We could have cheap and plentiful and reliable electricity from now to the year 3000 if we used what's in the ground and used technologies that we know work: coal, gas, nuclear. But which country has been so cursed with politicians like this, from both sides of politics, weak, incompetent, or just blinded by global warming ideology, anti-nuclear ideology as well? We're talking about politicians who said no to nuclear power, now saying no to using fossil fuels in the future because, global warming. So they say, you've got to go green instead, wind and solar and batteries. Easy, done. But it isn't. Because you just look at what these fools have now done. Ideologues like Federal Energy Minister Chris Bowen and the authoritarian Premier of Victoria, Dan Andrews. I've warned for years we're heading to this disaster, and here it is. Today, even the energy market operator admits in a report that, oh dear, we need urgent new investment to keep on the lights because we're closing all these nasty coal-fired power stations, all right, but getting the nice green power to actually work well enough to replace them turns out to be hard. And now we're running out of electricity. It says reliability risks are forecast to exceed the relevant reliability standard in Victoria from this summer already. In New South Wales from 2025-26. South Australia from this summer as well. South Australia, the state that depends most on wind power. And Queensland from 2029-30. And Minister Chris Bowen said today, oh, no, it's alarmist to talk about blackouts, but then refused to rule them out. With this hot summer coming, lots of people wanting air conditioning. All he would say is that he'd try very hard.
What I guarantee is that all the governments are working together with AEMO to make sure that our grid is as stable as it possibly can be going into what will be a very hot summer.
And Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews, wouldn't you know it, he just told a complete falsehood about this AEMO warning.
But he doesn't take account of projects that are being built as we speak.
But meanwhile, AEMO, the energy market operator, its boss, was today still trying to soft soap this disaster.
Well, this report is not a forecast of what's going to happen. It's a signal to investors that reliability gaps do exist, and it points investors to where and when they need to be filled. Governments and industry have plans that, if implemented, will fill much of the reliability gap over the next decade. But the key thing here is that those plans do need to be implemented.
Well, yes, the problem is that none of that is happening, being implemented fast enough yet. Well, that's true. It keeps happening. It's not changing. The Albanese government has got a grand plan to make 82% of our electricity green in just 7 years. Go wind and solar batteries instead. But almost every single project in that plan is over budget or behind schedule. I mean, almost daily for a couple of weeks now, I've been giving you the latest update on which project's gone bung. This week, for instance, we learned the Snowy 2.0 pumped hydro scheme, which works as a kind of giant battery for wind and solar power, meant to, has blown out from $2 billion to $12 billion, and is now running at least 7 years late. The Kurri Kurri gas plant, meant to replace the Liddell coal-fired power station that closed all right this year, well, its replacement is a year late, and its costs have also blown out from $600 million to $950 million, nearly $1 billion. It's everywhere the same story. Transmission lines meant to hook up all these green projects. Costs often double or triple. Well, they've been held up by farmers furious at these monstrosities crossing their land. But never mind, you're perfectly right. There's not a problem I've mentioned here that our politicians on the left can't actually make worse. For instance, this paper today from the Energy Market Operator says one reason for us running short of electricity is actually because of population growth. And guess what? More than half of that is now from immigration, which this government is making worse by bringing in an incredible 400,000 extra people in 1 year. Another reason, it says, for this little problem are these schemes to push people onto using using electricity instead of gas or petrol. And hello, that includes Chris Bowen pushing us to drive electric cars, or Premier Andrews banning people from cooking and heating with gas in new homes after December. Sydney Council wanting the same. I mean, crazy stuff in a country actually running out of electricity for those stoves and heaters. Honestly, I feel sometimes, Australia's sort of slipped into a universe of an alternative reality. Because here's Chris Bowen again today, even blaming coal-fired generators, not these global warming plans, for this crisis.
The issue is coal-fired power stations becoming increasingly unreliable.
No, Chris, the issue is that the owners of those coal generators don't think it's worth risking $1 billion or whatever to refurbish their ageing plants, because even today you are still telling them that you and your Labor Premier mates want them out of business.
Either of us want to see a coal-fired power station stay open a day longer than it should.
Meanwhile, of course, Labor's Greens allies are actually threatening more protests like these if the government dares to allow more coal and gas projects to keep on our lights. Even today, after hearing that we're now short of power. I mean, can you believe this guy?
The more new coal and gas projects that Labor opens, the more civil disobedience there's going to be.
Now, what makes this even crazy is that Australia we could stop all our emissions tomorrow, at whatever terrible cost, stop them all, and we still wouldn't change the world's temperature, or at least the climate, change the climate. As the former chief scientist himself admitted, we're too small. Yet, a new report says China, which is the world's biggest emitter by far, is giving the go-ahead now to 2 coal-fired power stations a week and is starting construction of more than 1 a week. So China will build more coal-fired generators every 5 months, or probably less, than all the generators in Australia today. So here we are. We have 1,000 years of coal, hundreds of years of gas, mountains of uranium, yet this government is giving you higher prices and less electricity. And you've got to ask, what brand of idiocy does it take to manage that?